you know,
Yes.
nothing in life's guaranteed, I suppose. And
No.
so I do think that for all it was a horrible experience, it has kind of made me a stronger person for it, if you know what I mean.
Yes, 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 yes. And it does prepare us for what's ahead when we go through
Exactly.
tough times sometimes.
Exactly. No, I think you're right, and I think that, you know, again, when I went through it for the first time, I didn't talk to many people about it, because it was the unknown, I suppose, and none of my friends had ever gone through it, and they were all having babies, and I was happy for them, and but thinking, oh, you know, why is it not my turn, sort of thing. Um, and then, you know, when because we went through it again with Jessica and had another fresh cycle, which thankfully worked, no problems. And then, because I was a bit more used to it, and sort of not, I don't think you can ever get used to it, but a bit more aware of the procedure, etc. It
Yeah,
was kind of, I felt easier to sort of talk about it. And then, as I say, as I opened up about it, it was amazing the amount of women that I came across who it was necessary to have children. And it's amazing how many people do or have actually gone through the IVF procedure.
procedure.
You know, and I think now especially it's a lot of, you know, people don't mind talking about it, even you know, personal experiences. But I just think it also, the more you talk about it, the more it helps, because then you realize you're not alone, you know.
Exactly. That's very true.
Mm,
That's
yeah,
very, very true. Very true. I went through the IVF procedure twice, but
yeah.
it wasn't successful. And
Oh,
then I had my baby naturally.
oh, isn't that amazing? Oh, wow. It's amazing how the body finds a way. He was meant to be. You see? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. I mean, it's sad that it, you know, the IVF didn't work, but I have heard that once, you know, the mind again, I think once it relaxes and, you know, maybe kind of comes to terms with the fact that possibly what, you know, what we may not be sort of mums naturally, the body then, I think it does its thing, doesn't it?
Yes, it does this thing.
Yeah.
It does this thing.
'Cause
Yeah.
we had a frozen cycle from Nathan's batch, because there were so many eggs, and we just froze them because you know, we didn't know, we didn't want to just dispose of them, which was the option. So we held them in storage. So after Jessica was born, I mean, I was sort of coming up, I was just past 40 at that point. And I'd said to Pete, come on, let's use these frozen cycles. What will be. And I fell pregnant from a frozen cycle, but unfortunately miscarried.
Oh,
Um, around 8 or 9 weeks. And then I needed, you know, the choice was, do you either just take a tablet, or take something up? So we decided that, being I was just over 40, and we decided that we were going to use the eggs that had been frozen from Nathan's cycle, which was 2008. And it fell pregnant, but then unfortunately miscarried. But it was a weird concept to think that I was carrying Nathan's twin, but 4 years apart, because it was from his fresh cycle, obviously, that would frozen them. And that was kind of, whoa, you know, that's a bit strange, if you like. But unfortunately miscarried. So then I had the option of either taking something to sort of, and then coming away naturally. But I didn't really want to have to go through that. So I opted to be put to sleep and then have the procedure when it's taken away. Used to be called a D&C. I don't quite know what it's called these days. So then had that. We're looking to adopt, because I've always wanted a big family. I'm an only one, you know. I've never had any siblings, and I've always just wanted, you know, to have some. You know, I always thought nobody's there to play with me, sort of thing. So I always wanted a big family. But you know, once the frozen cycle didn't, you know, we miscarried, I thought, well, we'll look to adopt. So we went through a few of the classes to adopt, because that's quite a rigorous, um you know, you have to go through lots and lots of different classes and courses and this, that, and the other. And then we thought, you know, really, we've got a girl and a boy. We should be, well, we are really thankful that we've got healthy children. Let's just sort of leave it there. So we decided that was our family complete. then sort of that was it, going on with life. And then at 43, I was late from, I think I'd gone on a bit of a fitness. I'm always sort of trying to lose weight, and I yo-yo up and down with my weight, and I love my food and alcohol and things like that. So I was on a bit of a fitness time, and then I remember being late for my period, which I was always like clockwork. And I'd said to Pete, wouldn't it be funny if I was pregnant? And he was like, well, it would be, but he says, don't get your hopes up because you just can't. So I was like, oh, I know. But then I'd been to 2 weddings consecutive weeks. Of course, I'd had a good drink as well. And then we were due to go to Spain. I think it was probably a fortnight hence, and I was still late, and I thought, this isn't like me. So I went to the shop and I thought, right, I'm going to get a pregnancy test. And with Nathan and Jessica, I got the electronic ones, the clear blue. And I was like, oh, really I've got to know how many weeks. And this one, I thought, oh, I'll just get Tesco's own, I'll not be pregnant, but I just want to rule it out. So then I got up through the night, had a wee, and then the line came up and I was like, oh my God, how did that happen? Sort of thing. So I vividly remember going back through and waking Pete up and said, you're going to be a dad again? So he was like, what? But it kind of messed with my head because I'd taken all this time to kind of accept. Well, initially, it was kind of accepting that we needed the IVF, then accepting that we weren't going to have any more children. Then to then being pregnant and thinking, oh my God, how did that happen? And of course, I was worried about having the ectopic pregnancy as well because, just because of the things you read. So I went to the doctors. Of course, I was that early on, they couldn't really tell um, how far on I was or anything. And then I think the week after I went for an early scan, and then sure enough, there was a little embryo in the sac sort of thing. And I
Oh.
said, well, what about my holiday next week? Do we cancel? And she's like, well, no, she said, awful low it sounds. What will be, will be. If it's meant to be, she says that the hospital, the holiday will be a nice, relaxing time for you, one way or another, sort of thing. And I spotted very heavily. And I remember thinking I'd miscarried on the plane on the way over, because there was a lot sort of coming away. So again, I just felt a little bit off color when I was on holiday. So I just literally relaxed, and what I realized now, it was probably morning sickness, but at the time I just thought that I was a little bit down and not sure what was going on. But I was off my food and I didn't want any alcohol. So we ended up going to a hospital over there. And of course, the Spanish hospitals are much different to the British hospitals. So they gave me a scan. And of course, Pete wasn't allowed to come in with me. Very old fashioned sort of I don't know what the word is, matriarchal hospitals where the husband had to stay outside. So I had this scan, perfectly healthy heartbeat. And he wanted me to come back the following week. So I did that, and it had grown. So I knew, I had a feeling that the baby was going to be he was going to be okay. So then Patrick was born, a little miracle at 43. So I mean, I've had 3 cesarean sections. So obviously the first one was an emergency, and then 2 because I didn't want to risk that anything was going to happen to the babies. So once I had the section with Patrick, I had my tubes tied because I thought, as much as I love children at 43, I don't want any more. That was it. So no.
Oh my God. What a very interesting but
Oh yeah, I mean,
fulfilling part, God, I believe that there's something called destiny, and
yeah,
we just all have to go through what's been written. How we were gonna
exactly. That isn't that right? I think I do genuinely agree with you that for some reason that I always had 3 children in my mind. And because my dad, when I told my dad that we were going to go on for after before Patrick, this is that we were going to go on for like another IVF, because I did have another fresh round that didn't work, and he was like, "But when's it going to stop? You know, you can't keep trying and trying and trying because of the financial side of things, and obviously getting older." And but I do think that it's all written out there for you. And I'm a firm believer in God doesn't put something in your way unless he knows that you can cope with it, you
That's
know. And I'm
true.
not particularly religious, but I do believe in the higher, you know, that there's something out there that keeps you right, you know. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Very true. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Your story is so inspiring. Very
Oh,
inspiring,
no
especially
worries. Yeah.
for women, not just women, even family or men who are trying to start up and they had to go through, few things that we all have to go
Yeah,
through in our family or individual life. But then here you
exactly.
are.
Exactly, and it's totally around mindset. I think, you know, as you say, whether it's men, women, whether it's having a family, starting a business, I think if you're in the right mindset, anything's possible. You've just got to believe that it's going to happen. And I do genuinely think that you know, you've got to sort of become sort of your habits. You know, you've got to sort of believe and tell yourself that it's going to be all right, and then 9 times out of it will, you know, 9 times out of 10 it will. Whereas I think if you've got negative energy, and you know, then you attract negative energy, if that makes sense.
That's
And
true.
I've found that, you know, very, very much the case. And I've got coaches and mentors of my own who you know, who sort of keep me right. And I do think you have to invest in yourself. There's nothing wrong with that, you know.
That's very true. Thank you so much. So
No